Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the world of finance. And we're looking at finance fundamentals in this session. And we call this session Fin Funday. So, if you're someone who's basically aspiring to become a banker, or someone who's looking for a career in finance, or if you're someone who just wants to understand finance because either you like the subject or you want to know more about the subject, then this video is meant for you guys. Now, obviously, a lot of you would have basically found that while reading newspapers, either offline or online, there are a lot of jargons, a lot of technical terms getting used. And if you're someone who's not exposed to those terms and you're reading it for the first time, it can definitely become quite a Herculean task. It can be quite tough at times, right? And frustration आता है कि यार कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, क्या पढ़ेंगे, क्या समझेंगे इसमें, right? And a lot of you had basically reached out to us saying that sir, थोड़ा jargon के बारे में बताइए, थोड़ा terms के बारे में बताइए ताकि हम इसको और अच्छे से समझ सकें. So from that perspective, we basically started Fin Fun Day, which is basically going to talk about finance fundamentals, and we're going to make finance fun. Right? So you and I come together and we work together and create fun out of finance. And obviously, एक बार वो जो डर finance का निकल जाता है दिमाग से, if you feel that fear dissipating away, that's when finance really starts becoming interesting. That's when you basically gain the knowledge and you want to earn more and more knowledge, right? So that's the objective with which this series has been started. So without further ado, शुरू करें. At the outset, let me put a very clear disclaimer. This is not a buy or a sell recommendation on Zomato. That's not what this session is all about. But this session is about paying tribute to the startup ecosystem in the country and the way it has evolved. Now, the Zomato story is quite brilliant in the sense that a startup which basically evolved from just a simple idea, obviously a potent idea, to something which has reached up to the level of an IPO. That's quite a phenomenal journey for a startup from an Indian standpoint, right? And this is like embarking on a completely new journey for the Indian startup ecosystem, wherein you're saying that a company that started and obviously went through all the difficult periods and has now reached to the level of an initial public offering, that's quite phenomenal in its own sense. And at the same time, using that example to try and learn a few technical terms and jargons so that it becomes a lot easier for you to understand and assimilate. So वही objective है. Zomato का ना तो मैं बाई recommend कर रहा हूँ, ना मैं sell recommend कर रहा हूँ, but हम Zomato का story का इस्तेमाल करेंगे to try and understand some of the terms that are there, especially in the context of what is an IPO or an initial public offering, right? So Zomato as a company obviously started off with an idea wherein two founders obviously found in their ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दैट लोग लंबी लंबी लाइनों में खड़े हैं, क्यू में खड़े हैं, खाना उनके हाथ में आ नहीं रहा है. सो इट स्टार्टेड ऑफ एज एन इंट्रानेट विद इन द कंपनी. दे स्टार्टेड अ पोर्टल एंड फ्रॉम देयर, because of the success, they decided to make it from an intra company portal to a completely online website. They had their app and everything, and what started off as a basic listing of restaurants today is offering a host of services, both from the perspective of B2B and B2C. So that's the first technical jargon that we're learning. What is B2B? B2B का मतलब होता है business to business, which means I as a business am providing service to another business. The second one is B2C, which is business to consumer. Consumer का मतलब people like you and me, individual customers, right? And it could obviously be a group of customers also. So B2C के examples क्या हो सकते हैं? For example, हम बात करें Zomato का, हम बात करें Swiggy का, हम बात करें Amazon का, हम बात करें Flipkart का. All these are basically examples of B2C because a business like an Amazon or a Flipkart is servicing consumers, individuals like you and me. On the other hand, let's talk about a B2B customer, right? For example, let's say if you have any kind of a training service provider, right? And it is basically providing training to your companies and your organizations, right? For example, basic soft skills training, English training, financial modeling, Excel ka training. And if they direct this offering and if they provide this offering to only companies, then they are a business which is serving another business. So that becomes B2B. Now, another example in the Indian context, or let's say even in the global context, could be organizations like Udaan, Alibaba, wherein you're looking at providing services to basically from one business, which is Udaan or Alibaba, to another business. You're not serving individual customers, but you're serving obviously a bigger set of customers in the context that you call them B2B. So obviously दोनों segments में बहुत differences होते हैं. When you say B2B, the kind of marketing that is required, the kind of servicing that is required is very different from a B2C kind of a customer, right? We'll not get into the details of this, but I hope you understood the difference between a B2B and a B2C customer. Now, technically, at this point in time, Zomato has become so big that it has got offerings both on the B2C as well as the B2B segment. Now, when I say B2B, it's obviously looking at providing consulting services, right? It's also providing specific services to restaurants, right? So a lot of facilities specifically targeting for the businesses. And on the B2C front, obviously, you know about the food delivery business and a lot of allied services that Zomato is providing on that front as well. So that is something that what Zomato is offering from B2B and a B2C perspective. Now let's get a little bit more deeper in terms of understanding specifics about this particular IPO. Now, before we get into talking about Zomato, we need to understand certain basic terms that are there from the perspective of IPOs, right? So when I say an initial public offering, first of all, what we need to understand is एक कंपनी है, उस कंपनी को पैसा चाहिए, राइट? अब पॉइंट ये है कि भाई पैसा क्यों चाहिए और किस चीज के लिए पैसा चाहिए. So you talk about two things. You talk about assets and you talk about liabilities. राइट? बैलेंस शीट के बेसिक एलिमेंट्स क्या होते हैं? एक होता है एसेट, एक होता है लायबिलिटीज, एंड तीसरी चीज जो आपकी होती है वो होती है इक्विटी. एंड बेसिक इक्वेशन जो होता है किसी बैलेंस शीट में, उसमें ये लिखा जाता है कि आपका जो एसेट्स है वो है लायबिलिटीज प्लस इक्विटी. तो अगर आप कोई भी बिजनेस स्टार्ट करना चाहते हैं, सबसे पहले किस चीज की जरूरत होती है? सबसे पहले आपको चाहिए व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एज अ कैपिटल. कैपिटल मतलब मैं ये इंडिया का कैपिटल दिल्ली उस कैपिटल की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं. कैपिटल मतलब पैसा. ना पैसा क्यों चाहिए? पैसा इसलिए चाहिए बिकॉज यू वांट टू स्टार्ट समथिंग, right? And if you want to start something, let's say even if it's, let's say, a basic functionality like a Zomato, you'll obviously have employees on board. You have to basically have some kind of a facility. Especially अगर हम आज की बात ना करें और 10 साल पहले की बात करें, तो obviously ये work from home वाला concept उस वक्त इतना ज़्यादा popular नहीं था. तो obviously you need to have office premises. उसके बाद आपके employees के लिए laptops and various other equipment that will be required, right? If you're going to go and meet restaurants, then obviously you need vehicles to allow your employees to go and meet restaurants as well. So there are a lot of assets that you need in order to succeed. अब asset क्या होता है? Asset is something that is going to generate revenue for you over a period of time. इसका मतलब है कि आपने कुछ खरीदा. Let's say for example, आप basically कोई चीज खरीदते हो, right? The context is that अगर आप चाहो एट सम पॉइंट इन टाइम आप उसको वापस बेच भी सकते हो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने एक लैपटॉप लिया तो आप उस लैपटॉप को वापस बेच सकते हो. ऑब्वियसली उतना पैसा नहीं मिलेगा जितने में आपने उसको खरीदा था, बट इट इज टेक्निकली एन एसेट बिकॉज इट हैज गॉट सम वैल्यू attached to it, right? Similarly, organizations के context में जब हम asset की बात करते हैं, asset is something that can generate revenue for you. अगर हम एक बैंक का एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं, राइट? सो अगर एक बैंक का हम एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं तो उसमें जो बैंक्स लोन दे रहे हैं, राइट? फॉर एग्जाम्पल इट कुड बी अ कंज्यूमर लोन, इट कुड बी अ होलसेल लोन टू अ लार्जर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. व्हाट विल हैपन? अगर आप लोन दे रहे हो तो लोन का क्या मिलेगा बैंक को? एक तो ऑब्वियसली एट द एंड ऑफ द टेन्योर, लेट्स से मान लीजिए 5 साल या 10 साल का लोन है, उस लोन के बाद बैंक को वो पैसा वापस मिलेगा उस पर्टिकुलर कस्टमर से. ऑब्वियसली यहाँ पे एक बड़ा प्रॉब्लम आता है नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट्स का, उसकी बात हम किसी और सेशन में करेंगे. बट लेट्स लुक एट दिस बेसिक एग्जाम्पल. जब आपने लोन दिया एज अ बैंक, तो जो पैसा आपको वापस मिलेगा उसमें बेसिकली एक तो प्रिंसिपल कंपोनेंट है जो कि पूरा का पूरा, लेट्स से अगर 10 करोड़ का लोन है तो वो 10 करोड़ का लोन का पूरा अमाउंट जो है आपको वापस मिलेगा आफ्टर द लोन का टेन्योर, लेट्स से 5 साल के बाद. एंड दूसरा एंगल क्या है कि आपको पीरियोडिक इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स भी मिलेंगे एज अ बैंक बिकॉज आपने उनको लोन दिया है, right? So those interest payments are the revenue that the bank is able to generate out of this. So essentially, that loan that the bank has disbursed becomes an asset for the bank, right? So that's the context of what is an asset, right? Now next thing is, अब asset क्यों है? Because ये revenue generate कर सकता है, इसका revenue generation potential है, तो इसलिए इसको हम asset बोलते हैं. The second context that comes in is liability. अब liability क्या चीज है भाई? लायबिलिटी वो चीज है जिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हम बोलें कि भाई इससे हमको कुछ देना पड़ सकता है. फॉर एग्जांपल बैंक्स के केस में हम बोलते हैं डिपॉजिट्स. डिपॉजिट्स क्या है? कस्टमर्स लाइक यू एंड मी हैव प्लेस्ड द मनी विद द बैंक, राइट? अब बैंक को उस पे एक तो इंटरेस्ट देना पड़ रहा है हमको, ठीक है, सो दे हैव टू पे पीरियोडिक इंटरेस्ट टू अस, एंड देन हम जब चाहे उस पैसे को विड्रॉ भी कर सकते हैं, राइट। इसमें अब ऑब्वियसली और भी टर्म्स हैं, लाइक योर फिक्स डिपॉजिट, रिकरिंग डिपॉजिट, ठीक है। सो बहुत सारे टर्म्स इसमें अलग एडिशनल आते हैं, बट लेट्स बेसिक गेट एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ डिपॉजिट्स। सो बैंक को उसमें आपको इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट करना है। बैंक में बेसिकली कभी भी आप जाके वो एफडी को ब्रेक कर सकते हो और वो पैसा वापस ले सकते हो। तो अगर पैसा बैंक के थ्रू वापस निकल रहा है तो देन दैट बिकम्स अ लायबिलिटी फॉर द बैंक। नाउ लेट्स ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड इट फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ जोमैटो। जोमैटो के लिए क्या लायबिलिटीज हो सकते हैं, राइट। सो ऑब्वियसली अगर किसी ने उनको शॉर्ट टर्म क्रेडिट दिया है, राइट, किसी वेंडर को उनको पेमेंट्स करने हैं, सो ऑल दोज बिकम्स देयर लायबिलिटीज। द सैलरीज दैट दे नीड टू पे टू देयर एम्प्लॉइज, टेक्निकली दैट बिकम्स योर लायबिलिटी। सो बेसिकली देयर आर लॉट ऑफ लायबिलिटीज दैट आर देयर। नाउ अगर हम डायरेक्टली इस तरह से भी समझ में नहीं आ रहा, अगर हम प्योर इंग्लिश के पर्सपेक्टिव में बोले, हम ये कहते हैं कि बेसिकली दिस पर्सन इज एन एसेट टू द कंपनी। क्यों बोलते हैं भाई? वाई डू वी से दिस स्टेटमेंट दैट दिस पर्सन इज एन एसेट टू द कंपनी? बिकॉज दिस पर्सन हैज द एबिलिटी टू जनरेट ग्रेटर रेवेन्यू फॉर मी, राइट। एंड ऑन अ मोर कैजुअल नोट, कई बार पिताश्री बोलते हैं कि भाई यू आर अ लायबिलिटी फॉर मी, which means technically obviously he doesn't mean anything bad in that context, but what he's trying to say is कि बॉस तुम पे मेरे को पैसा खर्च करना पड़ रहा है बट उससे मुझे कुछ रिटर्न नहीं मिल रहा है, राइट। दैट्स द होल कॉन्टेक्स्ट। अगेन दैट्स मोर ऑन अ कैजुअल नोट, बट द थिंग इज liability is something which obviously has the tendency to make you pay, ठीक है। so asset will make you gain, liability will make you pay. That's the context between an asset and a liability. Now that we've understood this, next we basically come on to another very interesting angle कि भाई अगर आप एक कंपनी है तो आप कैसे कैसे पैसा ले सकते हैं। ऑब्वियसली एक चीज हमको समझ में आ गई कि कुछ भी करने के लिए हमको पैसा जनरेट करना पड़ेगा, राइट। कुछ भी खरीदने के लिए या कुछ भी सर्विस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए हमको इनिशियली एक कैपिटल चाहिए, वो हमें जनरेट करना पड़ेगा ना। अब वो कैपिटल आएगा कहां से, राइट? फ्रॉम वेयर ऑल कैन आई जनरेट दैट कैपिटल? सो देयर आर टू primary methodologies in which you can generate capital. So the first one of course is your debt and the second one is of course is equity. Debt का मतलब है again the same concept कि आप बेसिकली किसी बैंक के पास या किसी नॉन बैंकिंग फाइनेंशियल कंपनी के पास जाते हैं, उनको बोलते हैं भाई कि मुझे लोन चाहिए, मैं ये करने का प्लान कर रहा हूँ, राइट। एंड इफ यू रीच आउट टू देम एंड दे बेसिकली गिव यू दैट लोन, देन दैट अपीयर्स एज अ डेट ऑन योर बुक्स, राइट। एंड वो डेट है एंड बिकॉज इस पे आपको इंटरेस्ट पे करना है और इसको वापस रीपे भी करना होगा, दैट विल बिकम अ पार्ट ऑफ योर लायबिलिटीज। दैट्स द होल कॉन्टेक्स्ट, राइट। नाउ द सेकेंड एंगल इज बेसिकली equity. इक्विटी बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग फील्ड है, इसमें काफी रिसर्च हो चुकी है। देयर आर ह्यूज नंबर ऑफ प्लेयर्स इन दिस, ऑब्वियसली डिपेंडिंग ऑन द साइज ऑफ फंडिंग रिक्वायर्ड। आप उनको क्या कहते हैं, एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स बोल सकते हो, आप उनको वेंचर कैपिटल बोल सकते हो, आप उनको प्राइवेट इक्विटी बोल सकते हो, बट इट्स अ वेरी वेरी सोफिस्टिकेटेड फील्ड दैट एग्जिस्ट टुडे। बट व्हेन आई टॉक अबाउट इक्विटी, व्हाई डज अ कंपनी वांट टू रेज इक्विटी, राइट? सो एक इसका बेसिक एंगल ये है कि इसमें कोई लायबिलिटी एंगल नहीं आता, इन द सेंस कि आप पैसा रेज कर रहे हो मार्केट से बिकॉज आपको कैपिटल चाहिए, बट आपको इस पे कुछ इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट नहीं देना है और इसका प्रिंसिपल रीपेमेंट का भी कोई कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है, राइट। बट एक चीज जो आपको देनी पड़ेगी, जो आपको डेट में नहीं देनी पड़ती है, वो है ओनरशिप, राइट। सो यू टॉक अबाउट अ कंपनी, राइट, 100% शेयर्स रहेंगे उस कंपनी के, राइट। उस कंपनी में क्या रहेगा? उस कंपनी में ये रहेगा कि आपके कुछ इनिशियल 1 या 2 प्रमोटर्स रहेंगे जिनके पास पूरा 100% ओनरशिप ऑफ द कंपनी रहेगा। बट जब आप इक्विटी रेस करने जाएंगे तो आपको बेसिकली किसी से पैसा लेना पड़ रहा है। अब वो मुफ्त में तो पैसा देगा नहीं आपको, राइट। सो ऑब्वियसली यू विल हैव टू पार्ट अवे विथ सम पोर्शन ऑफ योर ओनरशिप टू दैट पर्टिकुलर पर्सन। नाउ दैट इज वेयर द डिफरेंस बिटवीन डेट एंड इक्विटी कम्स इन। डेट में आपको ओनरशिप नहीं देना पड़ रहा है, बट उसके बदले में आपको इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट देना पड़ रहा है। ऑन दिस अदर हैंड, इन इक्विटी यू आर पार्टिंग अवे विथ ओनरशिप. So let's take the example of Zomato. Obviously, you had the initial set of promoters and initial investors there. And then subsequently, one of the biggest investors that came in on Zomato was InfoEdge in those days, right? So obviously, Zomato had to part away with some portion of their ownership to InfoEdge. But why would a company basically give ownership to another person? उसका लॉजिक बहुत ही सिंपल है कि भाई मुझे पैसा चाहिए और मैं उस पर इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स या मेरे ऊपर कुछ लायबिलिटी नहीं आनी चाहिए, तो उस सेंस में मैं क्या कर रहा हूं कि मैं आपसे पैसा ले रहा हूं बट मैं आपको ओनरशिप दे रहा हूं. Simple concept. That is the logic as far as the company is concerned. Now, why would the other entity, for example, InfoEdge, why would they basically give this money for ownership? उनका थॉट प्रोसेस क्या है कि ये जो कंपनी जिसमें हम पैसा डाल रहे हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल जोमैटो और एनी अदर स्टार्टअप फॉर दैट मैटर, वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग दिस कंपनी टू ग्रो सब्सटैंशियली, एंड व्हेन दैट कंपनी ग्रोज इट विल गिव मी एग्जिट अपॉर्चुनिटीज एट अ लेटर स्टेज वेर मैं मेरा जो स्टेक है, मेरा जो ओनरशिप है, उसको मैं बेच पाऊंगा एट अ हायर लेवल. सो लेट्स से आज मैंने एक्स के वैल्यू पे इन्वेस्ट किया, तो अगर कंपनी बहुत अच्छा परफॉर्म करेगी, सो मे बी 3 years डाउन द लाइन, 5 years डाउन द लाइन, आई विल बी एबल टू जनरेट 10x returns on my initial investment, right? So that is a thought process for any company to come and invest, or any investor to come and invest into a particular company, right? क्यों आप इक्विटी ओनरशिप ले रहे हो? बिकॉज आपको एक्सपेक्टेशन है कि ये जो ओनरशिप का जो वैल्यू है, ये 5 साल 10 साल में सिग्निफिकेंटली ग्रो होगा. इट विल ग्रो अप सिग्निफिकेंटली, एंड दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई आई वांट टू टेक पार्ट इन दिस ओनरशिप, एंड दैट इज व्हाई आई वांट टू इन्वेस्ट, राइट? एंड ऑब्वियसली एक चीज आप समझो कि अगर आप किसी कंपनी में इस तरीके से इन्वेस्ट करते हो, तो ऑब्वियसली रिस्क बहुत ज्यादा है, राइट? बिकॉज इस इन्वेस्टमेंट का वैल्यू जीरो भी हो सकता है आगे चल के अगर कंपनी बंद हो जाए, बट द सेम टाइम पोटेंशियल फॉर रिटर्न भी बहुत ज्यादा है. देयर इज अ सिग्निफिकेंटली हायर चांस फॉर रिटर्न विच यू मे नॉट गेट इफ यू आर अ इन्वेस्टर जिसके पास सरप्लस पैसा है जो आप इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हो. सो दिस इन्वेस्टमेंट might not generate great returns for you if you let's say put in any kind of saving schemes या fixed deposits में डाल दो. even आप अगर directly equities में भी डाल दो, so maybe उतना return नहीं मिलेगा, right? So the company which is investing is looking to generate the maximum amount of returns that are possible. and एक चीज जो finance में होती है जो आपको समझनी चाहिए, that is the correlation between risk and return, right? The higher the risk, obviously जो बंदा इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है, ही विल एक्सपेक्ट हायर द रिटर्न, बिकॉज देयर इज नो पॉइंट कि आप रिस्क भी बहुत ज्यादा ले रहे हो और रिटर्न भी कम मिल रहा है. उसका क्या मतलब है? पॉइंटलेस है, राइट? सो देयर इज अ टर्म इन फाइनेंस कॉल्ड एज रिस्क एपिटाइट, विच मींस जितना आप रिस्क ले सकते हो उतना ही रिस्क आपको लेना चाहिए एज अ इंडिविजुअल, एज अ कंपनी. एंड जितना ज्यादा आप रिस्क ले रहे हो उसके हिसाब से आपको रिटर्न भी मिलना चाहिए, अदरवाइज वो रिस्क पॉइंटलेस है, राइट? सो आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ इक्विटी नाउ, कि कंपनी क्यों इक्विटी चाहती है, एंड दूसरा कोई इन्वेस्टर आके इक्विटी क्यों लेगा किसी कंपनी से. सो ऑब्वियसली कंपनी को पैसा चाहिए, इन्वेस्टर को रिटर्न चाहिए, एंड दोनों साथ में आ गए. दैट्स द कॉन्टेक्स्ट एज फार एज योर इक्विटी इज कंसर्न. अब अगला जो सवाल उठता है वो ये है कि भाई चलो ठीक है, नाउ यू मे ऑब्वियसली डिसाइड एज अ कंपनी दैट यू मे वांट टू रेज इक्विटी बिकॉज डेट में लायबिलिटी वाला पोर्शन आ जाता है. सो यू वांट टू रेज इक्विटी, फाइन. आप कैसे पैसा उठा सकते हो? सो ऑब्वियसली देयर आर मल्टीपल वेज इन विच दिस कैन बी डन. सो वन ऑफ द प्रिलिमिनरी वेज दैट यू कैन लुक एट इज योर इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफरिंग. नाउ व्हाई इज इट कॉल्ड इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफरिंग? बिकॉज दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम इनिशियल that you're going to the public to raise money, right? And that is when your private company basically becomes a public company, because initially जो आपकी कंपनी थी उसमें प्राइवेट ओनरशिप थी, अब वो जो है पब्लिक ओनरशिप में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगी आफ्टर योर इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफरिंग, राइट? सो दैट इज समथिंग विच विल हैपन. नाउ एक बार आपने पैसा उठा लिया, तो दूसरी बार अगर आपको पैसा उठाना है, देन यू डू समथिंग कॉल्ड एज अ फॉलो अप और अ फॉलो ऑन पब्लिक ऑफरिंग विच इज योर FPO. एक बार आपने पैसा उठा लिया मार्केट से, अब आपको और फंडिंग रिक्वायरमेंट है, वेर एन यू से कि मैं कुछ नया प्रोजेक्ट स्टार्ट कर रहा हूं, आई एम डूइंग सम मैसिव रिसर्च और समथिंग लाइक दैट, एंड आई नीड टू रेज मोर मनी फॉर दैट. सो फ्रॉम दैट पर्सपेक्टिव दैट इज बेसिकली रेफर्ड टू एज अ फॉलो ऑन पब्लिक ऑफरिंग. Another set of ways in which money can actually be raised is that you basically are talking about an existing promoter or an existing shareholder in a company, and if they would want to raise money and go for something called as an offer for sale. Offer for sale is a slightly more faster process. Usme kind of regulatory requirements is lesser in that sense, and it's more what do you say, quick in the entire response time. So from that perspective you can look at something called as the offer for sale also. So इस मेथड में एडवांटेज क्या है कि इफ यू आर एन एग्जिस्टिंग प्रमोटर और अ शेयर होल्डर एंड आप अपना जो स्टेक है उसको थोड़ा सा कम करना चाहते हो, आपका जो कैपिटल ओनरशिप है उस कंपनी में उसको डाइल्यूट करना चाहते हो, देन यू कैन बेसिकली यूज दिस मेथोडोलॉजी कॉल्ड एज ऑफर फॉर सेल, बिकॉज इट इज स्लाइटली फास्टर, right? And it does not have to, you don't have to go through the entire process of the IPO all over again. So that is one of the benefits. And obviously you need to be a shareholder of more than 10% in the company for you to be able to use this methodology. But this is something which the SEBI basically launched somewhere around 2012 2013, and subsequently this methodology has also been used by the government itself several times in order to divest its stakes in some of the public enterprises that we see. So from that context also, offer for sale is used quite extensively, right? So from a company standpoint, obviously thoda regulatory requirements kam ho jata hai, to offer for sale for an existing shareholder of the company makes a lot of sense because it is a faster process. So that is something that is there. Now, another way in which you can basically look to raise money is basically called as your private placement. So इसमें क्या हो रहा है कि आप as a company आप पब्लिक के पास नहीं जा रहे हो, बट लेट्स से यू गो टू अ क्लोजर सर्कल ऑफ फ्रेंड्स, यू गो टू सम एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स, राइट, एंड बेसिकली यू ट्राइंग टू रेज मनी थ्रू अ प्राइवेट सर्कल of a small set of investors rather than going to the entire public as a whole. So in that context, it is basically termed as a private placements. And obviously there are several guidelines around OFS, PP also, apart from IPO. But इसमें फायदा क्या होता है कि the regulatory requirements is not as stringent as there are for IPOs. That's the fundamental thought process. Now, these are some of the ways in which the money can be raised from an equity standpoint. Next thing that comes up is, as a company, when you approach SEBI and say कि sir मुझे पैसा उठाना है market से, so how do you go about that process? Obviously there is an entire due diligence process that needs to be followed, and one of the critical steps in that process is what is called as your draft red herring prospectus or your DRHP. Now इसका fundamental thought process क्या है कि if a company is basically trying to go to the market, to me and you as public, they have to tell the public कि भाई मैं क्या करता हूँ, what is it that I'm into, what is my business model, what is my financial statements looking like, how am I generating revenue, what are my projections का मतलब आगे चल के मेरा revenue कैसे grow होने वाला है, किस lines of businesses में मैं जाने वाला हूँ, अब मेरे business में क्या क्या risks involved हैं. All these things have to be clearly identified by the company, so that when you look at that prospectus, as an investor, you'll get to understand what exactly is the company doing, what exactly is the company planning to do, why exactly do they need the money. All of these things become very clear when you go through this particular prospectus. So obviously this is the draft red herring prospectus. And then obviously once it is getting accepted overall through the entire process and पूरा ये what do you say, approve हो जाता है, and then at the end of it, when the IPO is also done, it's basically called as your final red herring prospectus or the red herring prospectus, right? So this gives information about what exactly the company is planning to do, what exactly is the company doing, why should you as an investor put money into this company. All of these things become clear when you look at this particular document. So if you're someone who's interested in investing into future IPOs जो आने वाले हैं, so obviously we're talking about one of the biggest IPOs this year in the context of Zomato. Obviously prior to this you had IRCTC, which was huge, then you had SBI Cards also, which was huge, right? So all those are basically IPOs wherein huge amounts of public interest got generated, and abhi aaj ke zamane mein bhi there are a lot of IPOs still in the pipeline. So this is one of the big ones in the what do you say, the startup space. But iske baad aur bhi sare expected IPOs hain. There are obviously from the government standpoint, you are looking at LIC that could happen. Then from the what do you say, the private sector and the startup standpoint, you're looking at companies like Paytm. There could be a possibility. So there are so many things that are lined up. So Zomato was basically a very big indicator about how the market is going to go. Right? So from that perspective, your draft red herring prospectus tells you about the company, because अगर कंपनी को पब्लिक से पैसा उठाना है तो आपको पब्लिक को कन्विंस भी करना पड़ेगा कि भाई क्यों पैसा डालना है, right? And that is where this basically comes into the picture. And obviously इसके अलावा there is a host of marketing activities that the company would be doing. And if you're someone who's been watching YouTube and a lot of channels, you would have probably seen that there are Zomato ads everywhere, right? That's the whole context with which this entire marketing campaign runs around any particular IPO. And draft red herring prospectus is just one of the steps in this entire process, right? Which tells you more about the company. Next thing, there are two fundamental differences, right? So एक तो है authorized capital. जितना capital what do you say, लेने का, मार्केट से उठाने का सेबी ने आपको अप्रूवल दिया है कि चलो ठीक है आप 10,000 करोड़ मार्केट से उठा सकते हो, राइट? दैट इज व्हाट इज योर ऑथराइज्ड कैपिटल, कि इतना आपको ऑथराइजेशन मिला है कि इतना कैपिटल आप कैपिटल मार्केट से उठा सकते हो. नाउ दूसरा टर्म जो इसमें आता है वो है पेड अप कैपिटल. आपको ऑथराइजेशन मिला इतना व्हाट यू से कैपिटल रेज करने का, उसके बाद यू टॉक अबाउट इशूड कैपिटल, कि कितना कैपिटल आप एक्चुअली अभी एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम रेज करना चाहते हो. सो मे बी दैट्स नॉट 10,000 करोड़, दैट्स जस्ट 9,000 करोड़, व्हाटएवर इट इज. एंड उसमें भी यू हैव टू फर्दर लुक एट कि उस 9,000 में से कितने लोगों ने शेयर्स को एक्चुअली पेमेंट कर दिया, हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम हैव एक्चुअली बॉट इट. that becomes your paid up capital, and that is the actual amount of capital that will reflect on your financial statements. Because ultimately, चाहे आपको ऑथराइजेशन 10,000 करोड़ का भी मिला हो, कितने लोगों ने या कितने इन्वेस्टर्स ने एक्चुअली आपको पे किया है, राइट? दैट इज द कैपिटल जो आपके पास एक्चुअली हाथ में है, एंड दैट इज व्हाट शुड अपीयर इन योर फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स, एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज रेफर्ड टू एज योर पेड अप कैपिटल, व्हिच इज देयर ऑन योर स्टेटमेंट्स, राइट? सो इतना पैसा एक्चुअली आपने इन्वेस्टर्स से कलेक्ट किया, दैट इज व्हाट इज योर पेड अप कैपिटल. Next up, couple of important terms, especially from an investor protection standpoint. So, हम types of investors भी अभी go through करेंगे थोड़ी देर में, but what you need to understand at this stage is there is something called as ASBA, which is your application supported by blocked amount. इससे एक चीज तो पता चल रही है कि कुछ तो कहीं तो कुछ तो ब्लॉक हो रहा है, राइट? एंड ये बेसिकली उस चीज के बारे में बोल रहा है कि जब आप एक एप्लीकेशन रेस करते हो आईपीओ में पार्टिसिपेट करने के लिए एज एन इन्वेस्टर, उस वक्त जितना भी आपने शेयर्स बिड किया है, राइट, नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स जो आपने बिड किया है एंड जो प्राइस पे आपने बिड किया है, दैट प्राइस इनटू द नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स, दैट मच अमाउंट ऑफ मनी विल बी ब्लॉक्ड इनटू योर अकाउंट. अब ये जो पैसा है ये ब्लॉक क्यों किया जा रहा है? सो ऑब्वियसली इसलिए बिकॉज अब एवरीथिंग इज बिकमिंग ऑनलाइन दीज डेज, एवरीथिंग इज बिकमिंग डिजिटल. सो व्हेन यू अप्लाई फॉर एन आईपीओ, दिस अमाउंट गेट्स ब्लॉक्ड सो दैट व्हेन if at all that allocation happens, allocation का मतलब क्या है कि पूरा का पूरा आईपीओ प्रोसेस हो चुका है एंड शेयर्स अलॉट हो रहे हैं, एंड जब शेयर्स अलॉट होते हैं तो ऑब्वियसली उन शेयर्स के अलॉटमेंट के हिसाब से आपको पैसा जो है इन्वेस्टर के अकाउंट से निकालना पड़ेगा. सो देयर इज नो पॉइंट in allocating shares when the investor does not have that money lying in that account. So ये operational hassles को avoid करने के लिए कई बार आप क्या करते हैं, कुछ और expenses के लिए पैसा डाल देते हैं तो पता चलेगा कि भाई अकाउंट में बैलेंस ही नहीं रहा, फिर shares कैसे allocate होंगे. So to avoid those kind of hassles, the basic concept of ASBA is the amount. Let's say for example आपने 10 shares का thought process है आपका, and the price of each share is let's say ₹20, then essentially 200 rupees जो है वो आपके अकाउंट में ब्लॉक हो जाएगा, राइट? एंड लेट्स से उस 200 में से सिर्फ 100 तक का आपको एलोकेशन मिला है, देन व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट 100 विल बेसिकली बी टेकन बाय द कंपनी इन दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट, एंड देन द रिमेनिंग 100 विल बी अनब्लॉक्ड फ्रॉम योर अकाउंट, राइट? अगर 200 का 200 मिल जाता, आपको एलोकेशन हो जाता, देन द एंटायर 200 विल बी टेकन अप बाय द कंपनी एंड ऑब्वियसली नथिंग विल बी लेफ्ट इन योर अकाउंट. और अगर आपके अकाउंट में कुछ लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल आपको कुछ एलोकेशन मिला ही नहीं, यू आर नॉट लकी इनफ टू गेट एनी एलोकेशन इन दैट आईपीओ, देन दैट एंटायर 200 अमाउंट विल बी बेसिकली अनब्लॉक्ड. अब इसका लॉजिक क्या है? एक तो एडवांटेज ये है कि वो पैसा ब्लॉक होने की वजह से आप उस पैसे को किसी और चीज के लिए यूज नहीं कर सकते टिल द टाइम द आईपीओ प्रोसेस इज ओवर. सो इजी टू टेक दैट मनी आउट. सेकेंड, वो पैसा भले ही ब्लॉक्ड हो, वो आपके ही अकाउंट में है, which means agar for any reason the amount has to be returned to you, all the let's say the bank which is obviously transacting in this process has to do is to unblock that amount, right? अभी पहले क्या होता था, आपने पैसा दे दिया, ठीक है, आपको allocation नहीं मिला और वो पैसा आते आते टाइम लगता था. That money to be returned to you would have taken time, but now that context is no longer there because it is still lying in your same account. So as soon as you realize or the company realizes that इसमें allocation इस बंदे को नहीं मिल रहा है, इस investor को नहीं मिल रहा है, that amount can be automatically unblocked. So it is immediately available for your use. That is the advantage of your ASBA. So this was basically launched keeping in mind a specific set of category of investors called as your qualified institutional buyers, which we will discuss in some time. But it has now been made mandatory for all types of investors so that every investor gets the benefit and the protection of ASBA. Right? That is what I wanted to discuss. Next thing is basically a DMAT account. It's basically the short form for dematerialized. अब मेटीरियल का मतलब क्या होता है? समथिंग दैट इज सॉलिड. डीमेटीरियल का मतलब उसमें कुछ मेटीरियल बचा ही नहीं, राइट? व्हेन आई से मेटीरियल नहीं बचा, इट मींस इट इज इन द डिजिटल फॉर्मेट, राइट? दैट्स द होल कॉन्टेक्स्ट. सो व्हेनेवर यू आर ट्राइंग टू परचेज शेयर्स ऑफ कंपनीज, इनिशियली इट यूज्ड टू बी इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ शेयर सर्टिफिकेट्स, but that concept is no longer relevant. We're talking about something called as your dematerialized form, wherein these shares that you get allocated, let's say for example अगर आपने Zomato के IPO में अप्लाई किया, then that particular allotment will happen through the dematerialized form, and Zomato के shares, if by chance they get allocated to you, you will get them in the dematerialized form in the DMAT account that you have, right? So that is what is DMAT or dematerialization. So it obviously makes transactions in securities a lot easier because इसमें आपको physical delivery करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. Let's say आपके पास shares available हैं And when you talk about the context of, let's say, selling shares at a later stage, then essentially what you're talking about is again selling it and delivering it to the other person. Then उस time पे अगर वो dematerialized format में होगा, then the physical delivery becomes a lot more easier because it will just get transferred from your demat account into another person's demat account. So that is the entire concept of a demat account. Now the next thing is कि whenever you're going for an IPO, you have to decide a price band as a company, right? So obviously there are multiple ways in which the IPO can happen. It could be a fixed price IPO, or it could be a book building IPO, right? So for example, book building IPO mein, you give the public or your investors a price band. Just say in Zomato's case, the price band has been identified as between rupees 72 and 76. Now, as an investor who's trying to, let's say, take a share of the ownership of the company through this route, you will probably look at identifying ki, okay, what is the right price? Now the price band has been given to you as 72 to 76. Now you start bidding कि आप कितना आप समझते हो कि what could be the ideal price of this particular share in the market based on your thought process, based on future prospects, and you basically put in your bid at the price that you feel is right for this particular stock. And of course, this price has to be within that price range that has been defined, right? That's the whole context. Now, the important thing to understand here is many a times the price range, even it's been talked about in case of Zomato as well, that it's on the higher side, right? So obviously there you have to look at not just how the company is performing at this point in time, but you also need to look at what are the future prospects for the company, right? And where is the growth trajectory going to be? And all of those things also get factored in when the company basically, comes up with a price range, right? So what can that price range do, right? There are two obvious things that can happen. So if the market feels that this price is too high, and this stock or this company does not deserve this much amount of money, then the IPO will go undersubscribed. Undersubscribed का मतलब जितना पैसा वो मार्केट से लेना चाहते थे उससे कम number of allocations हो रहे हैं eventually, right? So that is the context when it becomes undersubscribed, right? The other possibility is जैसे Zomato के केस में हो रहा है कि there could be an oversubscription, वरन जितना आप मार्केट से पैसा उठाना चाहते हो, जितने शेयर्स आप इशू करना चाहते हो, उससे कहीं ज्यादा आपको इंटरेस्ट दिख रहा है आपके आईपीओ में, right? So that is where your over subscription can basically happen. So that's the context as far as under subscription and over subscription comes in. So obviously your price range also has an important role to kind of play over here, right? So if the market feels that this valuation or this price range is not justified, then there is a very high chance that your IPO may go undersubscribed. But if the market feels that this pricing is actually good and there is a potential for this price to increase significantly higher, then obviously there's a chance that your IPO will be oversubscribed much higher than what was the initial issue of shares that you thought of. That's the whole context. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get into the details of how exactly will the issues happen and how exactly will the allocations happen in case of oversubscription. That's for another session. But this is basically what under and oversubscription is all about. So the next term that comes up is basically called as your green shoe option. And let's be very clear, it's not about owning a hara juta. That's not what this is all about. So what a green shoe option talks about is, just हमने बोला oversubscribe. So it talks about a scenario wherein there is huge interest for that particular underlying company, and basically it talks about the concept of over allotment. मतलब जितना आपने सोचा था अलॉट करेंगे उससे ज्यादा आप अलॉट करोगे, then that basically is talked about as a green shoe option. And इससे फायदा क्या होता है? It basically allows the market to stabilize the price of that particular stock and to basically avoid any kind of price fluctuations that are happening. That's the primary reason with which a green shoe options basically are happening. So basically जब भी आपको over allotment करना है, that is where the green shoe option comes into the picture. And many a times, even when RBI is trying to auction government securities, they also bring in this green shoe option as an added measure that is there. So these are some of the terms that I wanted to discuss. Now, no discussion on an IPO will be complete without discussing the entities that are involved in this process, right? So obviously, first of all, you have the regulator, without whom nothing can basically happen. Without their approval, nothing can happen. Obviously, that is your Securities and Exchange Board of India, that is SEBI. Next thing is your promoters of the company, right? So technically, when I talk about promoters in today's context, these are the individuals who are basically the founders of the company, or they could be the investors who basically brought in initial money through the private placement route, which I was mentioning. So these could be the people who are in control, right? So now the context here is, Obviously, there are regulatory guidelines that SEBI is changing from this front also, wherein a promoter, because of the fact that their ownership in the company over a period of time can actually come down by the time the company comes for an IPO. And let's say there are other angel investors and let's say venture capitalists and private equity firms who are also part of the scheme of ownership. In that sense, the SEBI is now talking about something called as people in control. Instead of calling promoters alone, it is also talking about something called as people in control, which is essentially telling you, okay, ये लोग मैक्सिमम ओनरशिप रखते हैं जिसकी वजह से इनका कंपनी के डिसीजंस में ज्यादा से हो सकता है. That is the context with which you look at promoters as well as your people in control. Right? So it basically indicates the actual ownership of the company before it goes into IPO, and it also tells you कि decision making power सबसे ज्यादा किसके पास है. Right? So that is what I want to talk about from a promoter standpoint. Next very important element is your underwriters, right? So obviously there are multiple entities here. You talk about underwriters, you talk about merchant bankers, you talk about lead managers. Now technically all of these can be roped in and done by single entities, or it could be done by multiple entities also. But let's try and understand underwriters. So underwriting का मतलब ये होता है कि it is sort of an additional protection that is being provided कि in case IPO में जो आप एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हो उतना सेल नहीं हो पाता है, उतना अलोकेशन नहीं हो पाता है, देन जो कुछ भी आपको पैसा रेज करना था उसका जो बाकी बचा हुआ अमाउंट है. So let's say for example you wanted to raise 100 crore, you could raise only 50 crores. Then the underwriter says that, okay, if you are raising only 50 crores out of the 100 crore, the remaining 50 crores, I will basically buy the shares and lend it to you. So that is what is underwriting. It is kind of way to protect the, the company. अगर लेट्स से अंडर सब्सक्रिप्शन हो जाता है और पैसा रेज नहीं कर पाते हैं, एंड दैट इज वेयर द अंडरराइटिंग कम्स इनटू द पिक्चर. इट्स सॉर्ट ऑफ एन एडिशनल इंश्योरेंस जो आपने लिया है अपने आईपीओ को बचाने के लिए, ताकि जितना कैपिटल आप रेज करना चाहते हो उतना कैपिटल आप रेज कर पाओ. दैट इज व्हाट इज योर underwriter. So obviously talk about your merchant banker and your lead managers. All of these are entities who are basically helping you in the entire IPO process, in the entire process relating to interactions with SEBI, draft rating, prospectus, all the due diligence, audit requirements, everything. And of course, how do you deploy those funds when those funds are basically received, and also look at marketing the entire IPO in the world. That's the whole context, right? So all of these things are done by your lead managers and your merchant bankers as well. Now moving on to the types of investors. So one of the basic categories is guys like you and me, your retail individual investors, right? Now these are people who basically can invest, let's say, into a particular IPO up to the limit of rupees 2 lakhs, right? Then you will be categorized as a retail individual investor, right? So in a given IPO, there is a particular amount or a portion that is allocated to your retail individual investors, wherein you can look at 35% of the IPO size can be allocated to your retail individual investors. Now talking about the next category, which is your non-institutional investors. Now in this category, you're basically looking at a cap of 15% of the IPO size. Now non-institutional investors are those investors who could be Hindu undivided family, it could be again individual investors like you and me, but you are basically exceeding that amount of 2 lakh rupees and you are not an institutional investor, right? So you don't fall into the category of an institutional investor, and you're also not a retail investor who's looking at only under 2 lakh rupees. Then you basically fall into the category of your non-institutional investors, right? The next category of investors that we're looking at is basically known as your qualified institutional buyers. As the name suggests, they are considered to be highly qualified because they understand the risk, because they invest in several such IPOs very frequently. They are institutions, that is why it is referring to institutional, and obviously these are buyers because they buy in big chunks, right? So these are your qualified institutional buyers. 50% of your IPO size is basically reserved for your qualified institutional buyers. Now, who are these guys? These could be big mutual fund houses, these could be commercial banks, these could be portfolio investors, and obviously these could be your public enterprises also. So all of these guys could come in and invest as well, and they are basically called as your qualified institutional buyers. Now within this category is a very, very interesting subcategory called as your anchor investor. So I'm not talking about AI of artificial intelligence here, I'm talking about anchor investor. अब ये लोग कौन है भाई? Now within this category of qualified institutional buyers, if you are someone who wants to pick up a block of shares which is basically worth greater than 10 crore rupees, then basically you become an anchor investor. Now, anchor as an English word, what does it mean, right? So वो generally हम use करते हैं ship के context में, and we say that ship has set anchor. Anchor is basically an equipment that a ship drops into the ocean or into the sea, and एक बार उसको आप drop कर दो तो ship अपनी जगह से हिलेगा नहीं. Ship will become stable in its location despite the movements of the ocean. That is what an anchor does in basically normal English usage. Now coming to, let's say, a bigger understanding. So let's take an example of a shopping mall. So any shopping mall that needs to function effectively needs customers to come in, right? तो जो walk-ins हो रहे हैं जिसको हम footfall बोलते हैं, so that footfall has to be generated by bringing in some stores जिसमें आपको पता है कि guaranteed customers आएंगे, right? So for example, it could be a retail chain like a Big Bazaar or a Spar, right? Or it could basically be a cinema complex that could be there. And the idea is, how do I ensure that at least I have few big stores, or let's say big outlets, which people would want to visit as customers? So then those stores basically become what is called as your anchor stores, right? Because these are the stores जो आपके footfalls में, आपके customer walk-ins में stability लाते हैं, right? Similarly, in the case of an IPO, it is these anchor investors who bring in greater stability to the IPO, wherein they ensure that certain portion of that IPO is brought by them, so that overall IPO is a success. Now, technically speaking, they obviously can have a very limited portion of that. So within the qualified institutional buyers का जो portion है issue size में, उसमें से 60% is basically reserved for your anchor investors. But even if you look at the overall IPO itself, it's still a major chunk, right? So as a result, अगर इतना portion आपको anchor investors के through मिल जाता है, then couple of things happen, right? So one is your anchor investors, just like a shopping mall, अगर आपका बिग बाजार आ जाता है, एक commercial cinema complex आ जाता है आपके shopping mall में, automatically the people start feeling कि हाँ यार ये अच्छा मॉल है, इसमें जाना चाहिए, we should visit this, right? And that is where the stability comes in, right? And that anchor store is also creating the brand perception of your shopping mall in the eyes of the customer who's trying to walk in. Similar context, the anchor investors are basically creating the brand image for this particular IPO in the eyes of the investors, because your anchor investors get to invest, or let's say put in their money a day before the entire IPO process basically happens, right? So in that context, and generally when we talk about an IPO process, it's a window of a few days, right? For example, in case of Zomato, it is from 14th of July till today, which is 16th July. So तब तक आपके पास time है, 3 days का time है जिसमें आप bids अपने place कर सकते हो. So your anchor investors basically come in prior to that process, right? So then the market, when it opens for the IPO, you already see that anchor investors have put in so much money, so that creates a brand perception in the market. यार हाँ ये अच्छा IPO है, इसमें हम पैसा डाल सकते हैं, anchor investors ने भी पैसा डाला है, so it creates a positive brand perception as well. So just like your anchor stores bring in stability to the shopping mall, your anchor investors bring in greater stability to the entire IPO itself. That's the context of an anchor investor. Now moving further, another term which I wanted to talk about is linking it with what we talked about from ASBA. अब ASBA करेगा कौन? ASBA will be done by your self-certified syndicate bank जिसके पास आपका account है जिसमें आपका पैसा ब्लॉक होना है. That bank is basically also certified as a self-certified syndicate bank, right? So only those banks will have the ASBA facility जहाँ पे ये वाला angle available है. So they should have that approval of a self-certified syndicate bank, and that is when they'll be able to provide ASBA facilities to pitch in IPOs. So then we talk about another interesting term, which is a depository participant. Now, depository participant is an entity जिसके साथ आप अपना डीमैट अकाउंट ओपन करोगे जहां पे आपके सिक्योरिटीज आएंगे. एंड डिपॉजिटरी पार्टिसिपेंट इन टर्न विल ऑब्वियसली हैव लिंक्स विद द 2 depositories that are there in India, which house all the securities across all companies. So that is obviously your NSDL and CDSL. So a depository participant will obviously have a link with the 2 central depositories, and then you as an investor will basically open an account with the depository participant in order to get your shares of whichever IPO you applied to into your demat account, right? That is something which is your role of a depository participant. Obviously, there are multiple entities which are providing this facility of a depository participant as well. Now, here comes in a very interesting aspect as well. So, I didn't discuss about primary and secondary markets. Why do investors invest in IPOs as well? Because they see the potential for that particular company कि आगे चल के आप इसके shares को अगर market में बेचना भी चाहो तो you may be able to generate great returns. So, primary market basically उस market को बोलते हैं जहां पे company पहली बार पैसा उठाती है. Right, so that is the first time it is going public. So when you talk about that particular route, wherein the primary person, the company's ownership, is trying to take money from the market, that is known as your primary market. Once the company has sold its shares to a lot of investors, then this pool of investors then becomes a secondary market. Right? So technically, primary market is one जहां पे company से market participants पे share distribute होगा, and now the external redistribution of shares that is happening in this set of new ownership customers, that is your secondary market basically, right? So primary market में company ने shares allocate किए and market participants को, then secondary market में अब ये जो market participants जिनके पास shares हैं वो किसी और को बेच सकते हैं या किसी और से खरीद सकते हैं. That becomes your secondary market. So it's like a second layer that is getting created. That's the difference between your primary and your secondary market. So these are the terms that I want to discuss, and these are the entities that I want to discuss. Now let's try and quickly move on to understand the Zomato scenario. The performance so far has been quite staggering, to be very honest, right? So the window was from your 14th of July to 16th July, which is the ending today. Then the price band was set at 72 to 76. Now we still have to see as to where exactly the shares or which price exactly do the shares get allocated. So that basically, that price will be known as the cutoff price. अब वो कितने पे होता है, that basically we'll get to know in some time. The next thing is, obviously in this case it's a fresh issue of shares by the company, and that is why it is known as a IPO. Right? Now, what is the issue size in this case? It basically is rupees 9,375 crores. That is absolutely massive, right? Huge amount of money that they're trying to raise. And out of this, 9,000 is through the fresh IPO issue, and the 375 crores is through an offer for sale, wherein one of the initial investors, InfoEdge, is trying to exit by selling a portion of its stake. So that is basically worth 375 crores. So that is something which is happening through the offer for sale route. Right? Now, if you look at the overall scenario as to how things were in Zomato in 2020, the earnings were approximating to rupees 2,700 crore. That's quite phenomenal as a performance, and this was significantly higher than what was there in 2019. Then when you look at your partner restaurants, that's reached a phenomenal number. So you're roughly looking at around 4 lakh partner restaurants that they have, and they also have Zomato Pro, and those memberships have also soared quite high. So those things have definitely happened, and you have orders upwards of 400 million that they've actually served already. And then you're talking about another very interesting aspect as of today in terms of positive unit economics, right? So for example, when I say unit economics, का मतलब क्या है कि हर एक order को जब deliver करने में जा रहा हूँ, right? And उस order के लिए obviously एक पैसा खर्च हो रहा है. So I have to look at how much am I spending per order to deliver a particular order, and how much am I making as a revenue on that particular order. Right? So that basically becomes the unit economics. So if I'm able to generate profit on every single order, right, on an average, if I'm able to generate profit on every single order, then I'm having a positive unit economics, right? So up till this point of time, Zomato wasn't really able to achieve positive unit economics. But if you see the trend over the last year or so, it has been able to do that because, one, the average order value of the company has definitely increased, right? So let's say, for example, instead of someone placing an order for rupees 100, if I obviously place a rupees 500 order, then the chances of generating profits in that individual order definitely goes up, right? So if the average order value is on a higher side, then automatically the unit economics ka chance of becoming positive is also higher. Right? So what they've been able to successfully do over the last year or so is to basically bring that average order value at a slightly higher level, right? And that is where they've been able to generate positive unit economics. The problem, unfortunately, is that obviously you have to look at the overall trend and the overall scenario as well. And if you look at it, the number of customers and all those trends are just an indicator, and obviously because of COVID also, their overall numbers have not increased as much as they would have wanted to. So from that perspective, while it definitely has positive unit economics, will they be able to sustain this positive unit economics in the coming years? is something which obviously you need to question, because obviously there are going to be other players also. There's a possibility that they might actually come in, right? And they'll definitely have to continue factoring in, because this positive unit economics does not factor in your marketing and your advertising costs, right? So this is at a unit level where you're talking about generating returns, but overall the entity is still making losses, right? So from that perspective, it's a decision that the investor needs to take, that despite positive unit economics, does the overall scenario that is being presented to you as an IPO, as a let's say an investment destination for you, does that make sense or not? That is something that you as an investor need to understand. So that is something which is there. So that is where the big but lies, and you need to bring in your best investment skills, or bring in that Warren Buffett inside you and figure out whether this makes sense or not. But yeah, positive unit economics they've been able to achieve, but will they be able to make profits in the longer run is something that we need to definitely think. Now, if we try and evaluate the performance of Zomato up till this point of time in terms of the IPO, especially at the end of day 2, even without looking at the results by the end of today, we can definitely see that it's definitely quite a staggering performance. Now, especially in the context of your retail individual investors, they've basically subscribed, or rather oversubscribed 4.73 times, which means agar 100 इशू करने थे शेयर्स तो 473 शेयर्स वर्थ बिड्स आ चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. सो दैट इज 4.73 टाइम्स bidding that has happened as far as your retail institutional investors are concerned. And if you look at the overall number, the issue is oversubscribed 4.79 times. That's quite a phenomenal number in itself. Then you talk about your non-institutional investors. That is basically at a 45% subscription as per the allotment portion that is allocated for your non-institutional investors. Then you talk about your qualified institutional buyers. They've also basically oversubscribed 7.06 times, and within this is basically where your anchor investors come in, and over 4,000 crores have been subscribed by your anchor investors themselves. Now, talking about another very important segment, which also gives you an indication of how important this is for the employees, right? So in this case, a company can also look at providing the employees an opportunity to buy the shares in the open market in the IPO. So there, if you see, it gives higher the subscription on this side, basically gives an indication as to how clued in the employees are, right? Because if the employee is also buying a stake, it means that they also believe in the growth story of the company. They also believe that it can actually generate greater amount of interest. And of course, another factor is that the employees should also have that much amount of money to be put into those investments as well. So एक तो obviously उनके पास पैसा होना चाहिए इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए, एंड सेकंड पैसा है भी तो दे शुड बिलीव दैट द ग्रोथ स्टोरी इज स्ट्रांग इनफ. बिकॉज आप एक एम्प्लॉई है उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, डू यू ट्रस्ट दैट स्टोरी, डू यू थिंक दैट इट्स गोइंग टू ग्रो एज मच. सो फ्रॉम दैट पर्सपेक्टिव योर एम्प्लॉइज कम टू द पिक्चर. And in the Zomato's case, that subscription at the end of day 2 looks at roughly around 36%. Right? So this is obviously indicative numbers that I've picked up from whatever news channels provided. Obviously, it still remains to be seen as to what exactly would be the outcome at the end of day 3, which is today. So the idea of this session was not really to talk about how Zomato's performance has been, but the idea was to use the Zomato story to kind of bring out the terms and explain those meanings and those contexts to you effectively, so that you get as to what exactly is happening in the market. That was the whole intention. So obviously a lot of terms covered today. So I hope that you did enjoy this particular session, and a lot of these terms and these jargons became a little bit more explainable, little bit more understandable to you. Right? And I hope you can have a conversation with someone else and kind of basically explain these terms to them as well. So if you have anyone in your circle who wants to understand finance, then definitely do recommend these sessions to you and your friends as well, because what we're going to be doing in these sessions is talking in pure layman terms. I'm not going to use massive jargon in these sessions. It's going to be pure layman terms. We're going to talk about what these different jargons mean, and we're going to try and build our knowledge in finance, but in a fun way. So I hope you enjoyed this session, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. But until then, have a great day and a wonderful, wonderful weekend ahead. See you guys.